Welcome to Ask Caleffi, the podcast that dives into real-life problems that plumbing and HVAC technicians face in the field. We're your hosts from the Caleffi Tech Support Team. I'm Greg Tubbs.
And I'm Dan Furcus. Welcome. We look forward to sharing some stories from our tech calls and using our background and expertise to make your days a little easier.
Welcome back. Here we are, another episode of the Ask Caleffi podcast. Dan, how you doing today?
I'm doing good today, Greg. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for showing up.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. Thank you, everyone listening, for showing up.
Yeah,
we appreciate that.
We so appreciate it. The response has been great. So we're gonna do another Ask Caleffi blog today. We're gonna pull some more questions from the blog, and now we're gonna talk more about plumbing.
Yeah. So we're going to talk more about the plumbing topics. Like we mentioned in the past, this podcast is based on our Ask Caleffi blog. So you can go online to our website and access that blog anytime and read the content. There's a lot of questions and answers. You have the ability to post questions anytime. Those questions do come to us, and we will reply with an answer. You may see them show up on a future Ask Caleffi podcast.
Absolutely. So we'll kick it off. One of the most common questions we get on the plumbing side of things is, I am going to install this 521 upside down. Can I do that?
Can you do that, Greg?
The answer is yes.
Absolutely.
And usually it derives from maybe that the water temperature might be irregular. Well, come to find out there's something else further down the line, like an incorrectly set water temperature on the water heater itself.
Yeah, well, and when you look at that, I mean, it can be installed in any configuration.
Right. It can be.
That's the advantage of a thermostatic mixing valve. It has that thermostatic cartridge in it, and it reacts with springs and judders and to mix the water. So it's not limited to having to be installed, vertically or horizontally. You can put that in any application.
That's right. That was a pretty simple one.
That was a simple one, but you know what? We get that question a lot. I probably had that twice last week.
Yeah, I've had it from contractors, homeowners, and even engineers will call and ask if it can be done that way.
Yeah, well, and I'm glad you called because there's certain products we have that can't be installed in a certain application or certain configuration. So we'd rather talk to you about it ahead of time than have you go back and have to do some repiping or replumbing or have a product failure because it's misapplied.
Right. What do you got?
Oh, boy. There's a lot of good ones on there. It was hard to choose, but one I get a lot is, what is the maximum flow rate of a thermostatic mixing valve?
That's a pretty deep question because it varies from model to model. Size matters here, right?
It does. And certainly when it comes to maximum flow rates.
Yeah,
so it really varies, depending on the model and size. You look at, for example, our 521 Mixcal maximum flow rate. First I'll mention, we rate all of our maximum flow rates based on a 20 psi pressure drop.
Right.
So that's how we calculate it out to a 20 psi pressure drop. So you look at our 521, and that valve is good to about 14 gallons per minute at a 20 psi pressure drop.
Yeah, any more than that, and you're gonna experience some noise, some screaming of the valve.
Right. Yeah.
Too much velocity through it.
One thing to look at, when you pick a mixing valve too, is the CV rating.
Right.
The CV rating will, determine how many gallons per minute it's going to be able to flow at a 1 psi pressure drop. So you look at our 521, that's rated at 3 CV. You look at our 520 angle mix. We've got a couple different sizes in the 520. We have 2 CV, which that's going to handle out to about 9 gallons per minute.
9 gallons a minute.
And that'll be the 1/2 and 3/4 inch sizes.
Right. And that valve works perfect in any basic residential application.
Yeah, it really does. Our tankless, that's really good with the tankless application or tankless coil.
It's excellent with that.
We got a larger body, a 3.5 CV body, that'll go up to about 16 GPM.
Sure, and that's great for the bigger houses with
bigger
recirc.
tank style water heater.
Yep. Usually running a recirc because that valve does have a minimum. It's not huge, but it does have a minimum.
Yeah.
And it's great for doing larger in-floor heating applications too.
Yeah, it really is. You get, that little higher flow rate, 16 gallons per minute at a 20 PSI pressure drop. You got to also figure that, because it has a higher CV, if you have a project that, is 10 gallons per minute, well, the 521 is going to fit that application, but the 520 in the larger body is going to have a lower pressure drop at that 10 GPM.
Absolutely.
So might be a better selection for that project.
Right.
And then we have our Mixcal Plus. That is going to be 1 inch, 1 1/4 inch option. That's going to go up to 40 gallons per minute, or 1.5 inch or 2 inch model that's going to go up to 70 gallons per minute.
Right. That's the 5231 series high flow mixing valve.
Yeah. We've got a lot of different options when it comes to maximum flow capabilities of thermostatic mixing valves. Another topic we're not going to go into really now, but you got to also look at the minimums on those when you're selecting them. So that's a good opportunity to call us.
Yeah, minimums and maximums are very important. And I had a guy yesterday message me, "Hey, I want to use an 1.5 inch valve. All right, do you know what your maximum flow requirement would be? Worst case scenario of that particular building." "No, I'm going to have to get back to you." "Yeah, please do, because I don't want you to put too big or too small of a valve in there."
Right.
Too big of a valve, why have to make up so much minimum, especially if you don't have a research size for that minimum.
Right.
So, yeah, another rabbit hole we could keep jumping down.
We could. But no, that's a good opportunity to call us, and we'll ask the right questions and help direct you to picking a model that's going to be a good fit for your project.
Yes. So another big question we get is more on the electronic mixing valve, the Legio Mix. And what is the battery used for in an electronic mixing valve control? Why is it there? Why do you have it? Well, it's there.
An important part.
Yeah, it is an important part. So if with our valve, with our control, if it loses power for whatever reason, that battery will help retain the settings, the date and the time, and all the settings in that control.
Yeah, so it's going to hold the memory in that control. How long will that hold that for?
72 hours. Oh, wait a minute. 15 days. 15 days. It'll hold for 15 days if it loses power. Now, the other question we get, and I know it's kind of a second question to the question.
Yeah, but it's good to talk about.
Yeah. We get the question, well, I'm getting a battery alarm.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? Well, one, you got to remember to turn the battery switch on, which probably 50% of the guys that call in looking for it don't know what's there.
Yeah, it's right on the back side of the control, below the battery. It's in a little horizontal configuration. It's a blue switch.
Blue with a white toggle on it.
Yep, battery on or off.
Yep.
It comes factory in the off position. Just remember to turn that on when you commission the valve.
You got it. And it will take 72 hours to charge. So if it's been sitting in storage somewhere, if you picked it up from a parts house and just put it in, we don't know how long it's been sitting there. So it takes up to 72 hours to fully charge. But typically within a day, that battery alarm light will go off.
Yeah, generally, Greg's right. You'll turn it on and you'll get that battery alarm, and that we get a call on that a lot. And it's like, okay, just give it 24 hours. Generally, within 24 hours, you'll see that go off. Within 72 hours, that battery will be fully charged. In the event of a power loss, you're going to have that battery back up for 70. Quote Greg again, for 15 days. There you go.
Yes, 15 days. So it has no bearing on the control working.
Yeah, that's important. It doesn't perform any operation of that control.
No. So there you have it. That's the whole story with the valve, or the battery in the mixing valve. What do you got next?
How do you clean a balancing valve? And this was specific to the 132 series, our Quick Setter Plus.
That's another long and lengthy one that we get.
There's actually a video on this blog post. So if we're going to talk about it, you guys can certainly go to the Ask Caleffi blog and look it up yourself. There's going to be a video on how to do it as well.
Yeah.
But essentially, that's the valve that you can manually balance by pulling the pin. And for you guys that aren't familiar with it, pulling the pin and using a 3/8 inch wrench, you can change the flow rate.
Correct.
You don't need any pressure differential tool or any additional tools to do that.
There's no PT ports on it. it's right there on the flow meter. You pull the pin, you make the adjustment. When you're done, you drop the pin, and then that flow meter then quits showing flow because you're disrupting the flow pattern through it.
Right. But so let's say you have it installed and you come back and you want to check your flow and you pull that pin and the ball doesn't rise up. Well, there are some magnets in there. There are some moving parts in there. So, it may be that some debris got into the bypass port, and you may need to disassemble that and flush it out. There's a series of steps on how to do that on the Ask Caleffi blog. It's very simple. There's 2 little Allen screws. You can back out to pull the flow meter out. We sell replacement flow meters if you can't get it flushed out and you need to. You can also remove that pin, the pull pin. Yep. Remove that and clean the magnet off at the end and put it back together. So, and there's step-by-step instructions on the Ask Caleffi blog and a video there to support it.
Absolutely. Well, what else can we talk about? We could probably keep going, couldn't we?
Yeah, we could keep going. There's probably 500 questions on the Ask Caleffi blog.
Yeah, at least. Well, I think for now, though, we're going to stick to the four or so at a time and dive down a few rabbit holes.
Yeah. So jump on there and help us add some content. You know, go and check that Ask Caleffi blog out, and don't be afraid to post questions when you have them, and you may hear your question read on a future podcast.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you for tuning in. If you ever need help,
please feel free to contact our tech support team anytime at techsupport.us@caleffi.com.
or call us during our business hours at 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Central Time at 414-238-2360.